While growing up on my family's farm in Tennessee, some of my most vivid memories were in the summertime, on Sunday afternoons, after church and after Sunday dinner. Then I would join my grandfather along with his brothers and sisters underneath the walnut tree next to our house. I would love listening to all of their stories and watching them cut up with each other. For me, this was also a time for thinking and just simply relaxing. On those hot days, the walnut tree always provided enough shade to catch an occasional cool breeze. It was the best time for reflection as I remember it. In the South, everything happened slow, amazingly slow for me. Destination, accomplishment, and excitement were all so very important to me. Therefore, I spent a lot of time dreaming. Mostly, I dreamed of a successful career in finance and a highly charged social life, preferably in New York City. But first, I thought jokingly to myself on many occasions, I have got to get off of this farm. Eventually, I left the slow lifestyle of the South and was anxious to start a new life in the big city of Milwaukee. Things happened for me very quickly. I met new friends and started new relationships with my cousins, uncles, and aunts that I had only known on a limited basis when they came down to Tennessee for a family reunion or when I came up here for a family picnic. I remember feeling like I had truly started a new life journey. In Milwaukee, I could move at a much faster pace in life, unlike the slow pace of the South where there were no speed bumps because there was no speed or urgency to do anything. Some years after I had become settled and content in my life, I traveled back to Tennessee for a friend's wedding. There, I reunited with an old girlfriend from high school that was living in New York. We exchanged information and began to talk by phone on a regular basis. After some time of getting to know each other again, we decided that I would fly out to New York for a visit. I was very excited. My life was good, but I felt as if there was a light being shined onto a different and a much more intriguing path. Finally, the day arrived for my departure to New York. I had an 8 a.m. flight. I arrived early, made it through check-in, and patiently sat on the concourse reading while I waited for the boarding call. After a while, I began to become concerned because it was getting close to 8 and I had not heard a call to board the plane. In my excitement about my trip, I hadn't noticed that it was a very foggy morning. I hadn't heard the announcements that some flights were being delayed and canceled. It turns out that my flight had indeed been canceled. I arranged for a flight later that morning, but when the time came, that flight was canceled as well. I arranged for a flight later that afternoon, but it too was canceled. Well, the fog never lifted, and I ran out of flights for that day, and I never made it to New York. I felt emotionally and physically stuck on the concourse and stuck on a path that was dark for the first time in a while in my life. I was disappointed and could not stop wondering if this speed bump was a sign to allow myself to go back to reflection under the walnut tree, in spirit at least. Although very troubling for me, this experience forced me to take a look and reflect where I had been and where it is that I really wanted to go. After weeks of contemplation about my life and whether or not I should pursue a life in New York, I came to the conclusion that I liked the life that I had built right here in Milwaukee. I entered a new stage in my life after my failed trip. I doubled down on the friends and family that I had come to rely on to share my life with. For many years, I had the same friends, life friends as I thought of them. It was not the destination that I had planned, but it felt like I was in the right place in my life. However, at some point, my friends and I began to grow apart. We failed to be the close and cohesive group that we were for years. We had all changed, and it was becoming apparent that we needed to find our own separate paths. For me, it was as if I was suffocating. At the time, it was very difficult to picture my life without these life friends that I had become to rely on so much. I could not fathom how I would get through a weekend without coordinating what we were going to do for fun. I really felt the need to take a good look at my life to find what was missing and where I had gone wrong in my journey that had me at this juncture of despair. One of the things that caught my attention in my reflections was that I had not been a churchgoer in years. It struck me as very odd when I realized it because church had been a very prominent thing in my life while growing up, and I had no idea when or why I had strayed from it. I started to attend the church where some of my family members went, but I did not find the fulfillment that I was looking for there. So I decided to go to a few random churches. I simply walked into a few churches of different denominations, sat down and waited for something to happen. I was hoping that the old spirit of my church in Tennessee would present itself to me again. However, this did not result in me finding what was missing. It was not until I talked to an older friend and told her about my desire to find what is missing spiritually from my life. I told her that I had grew up as a Southern Baptist and that I have tried several religions outside of Baptist, but I had not found any particular denomination that felt right. Well, she said, there is this Unitarian church over on the east side. I am not sure what they believe exactly, but I would say that they might be a good place for a lost soul such as yours. I researched First Church and Unitarian Universalism profusely before I ever came here for a service. At this point in my life, I was not a joiner, and I was very skeptical with committing to anything. However, unlike some other churches that I had tried in which I walked in and waited for something to happen, I did not make it in to sit and wait for something to happen because the energy was here as soon as I walked in these doors. The communal feeling brought me back to those summer Sunday afternoons after church under the walnut tree. I appreciated the shade of community and the cool breezes of fellowship and social justice here at First Church. My journey as I had planned it under the walnut tree never materialized into the high-powered and super excited lifestyle that I wanted. I never reached the destination that I thought I was headed for, but I am still on my journey. Speed bumps still come in my life just like they come in everyone else's. But I have found, since becoming a member of First Church, that I have an entire community on the journey with me. I have learned that in the words of one of my favorite writers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, life is a journey, not a destination.